Shoot the lights out high till it's bright out. Oh, just another lonely night. Are you willing to sacrifice your life?
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Gary Carpenter. I'm happy to share with you today some important food tips. Alright, some important food tips that I had the pleasure of sharing this Thursday, but I want to go a little bit in more depth at this moment. A gentleman by the name of Mr. H. Reed, he's the author of a book entitled Find a Way to Make a Way. Make sure you go check out that book. Harold S. Reed, Find a Way to Make a Way. He asked me to just delve in on the topic about what I call the 4 food devils. Okay, so the 4 food devils include 1. White sugar or refined sugar, white starches, salt, and saturated fat. Again, that's white sugar or refined sugar, white starches, salt, and saturated fats. Okay, so I'm going to start off with your white sugars. Okay, so we have the plain old white sugars, and you can find them in things like your soft drinks. This is some ginger ale here, and any sodas. A lot of juices have it. Candy, cakes, and when you just add sugar in your coffee, these are all things that we want to try to avoid doing. So I don't like to just talk about the problem. I want to give you some solutions to these problems, right? So what can we replace it with? So if you're drinking your coffee, this is some Truvia. Alright, this is a natural sweetener. This is actually pure Via. This is the label for this one. It's made out of a stevia product, and it's a natural sweetener, and it actually works out pretty good for your diet. It doesn't really change your blood sugar. It has 0 calories. It's pretty good. I think it's a little better than your Splendas. I do have a packet of Splenda. There's a lot of controversy about Splenda, so I'm not going to necessarily step out and recommend it, but I think it's an okay alternative as opposed to just dumping in lots of sugar, 2 and 3 cans of sugar. When you have a sweet tooth, what I want you to start doing is going and running for these things. When you have a sweet tooth, run for your fruits. Okay, fruits have lots of natural sugars, and there's something I want to share with you. Boom. Dried anything, any dried fruit that doesn't have sugar added. Make sure these are things without the sugar added. All right, dried cranberries, dried mangoes. You want them to be naturally sun dried if you can. It might cost you a little more money, but it's definitely worth the investment. Okay, so that's what you want to do as far as your sugars. Now we have the white starches, right? We talked about white starches. So in things like your pastas, things like your white rice, you want to take those. Now I don't want to say take it out of your diet, but definitely reduce those tremendously. And you can actually replace them completely with other alternatives. Alright, so we have brown rice, for instance. Brown rice is a lot better for your body. It does a whole lot for your glycemic profile. It has a much lower glycemic index. Then we have brown pasta. Alright, whole wheat pastas. These whole wheat pastas, they taste a little different, I'll be honest with you, but they are a perfect alternative. If you have that much of a hard time, you always can mix the two. Alright, you can mix the two. And definitely, if you're still eating white bread, just jump off a bridge. Seriously. You gotta switch to the whole wheat stuff, alright? This health nut bread, whole wheat. I don't care about the brand or the label, just make sure it's whole wheat. At least 3 to 4 grams of fiber in each of those servings. That's gonna be good for you. Alright? Alright, continuing on. We're going to go on to salt. Salt is terrible, but it's a necessary part of our diet. Most of the food that we have has plenty of salt in it naturally, so we don't really need to be adding salt. So you can take this as a kosher salt, just as bad as any other type of salt. Sea salt, it's the same thing. They're all the same. Don't fall into these tricks of the marketing companies marketing to make you think that this is going to be healthier for you because it's sea salt versus that salt. There is a salt alternative. I don't personally like it too much. It has a very odd taste, and you can't use too much of it at any one time because it contains potassium. This is new salt, which is a potassium-based salt. So you definitely, especially if you have any kidney issues or any other issues, You should probably speak with your physician before you start using new salt as an alternative. The other thing you gotta watch for with salt is these canned anything. These beans here have about 620 milligrams a day in a serving rather, and this soup has about 690 milligrams in a serving, and it contains 2 servings in a container. A lot of people will eat this one container. This is pretty much all of your salt for an entire day. The USDA issued new guidelines for salt regulations in your diet, and basically they're telling you that you should have no more than 1,500 milligrams if you're African American or over 65 years old. That's a huge part of our population. The reason why African Americans are singled out, if you look in my past blog called Salty, just look down, scroll down, you can see my blog Salty right there. It definitely speaks on the African American diet and how it's been so has such elevations in salt that our hypertension levels or high blood pressure levels are way out of whack compared to everybody else. So we gotta reduce the salt. Okay. A good way to avoid salt in your diet is to cook your own food at home and season it with fresh seasonings. I like to use lots of fresh seasonings, whether it's celery, parsley, onions, garlic. Use all of these things in combination with each other, and you can create a very robust flavor without using as much salt. Also, avoid the seasoning salt, your Maggi, your Lawry's. All these things are loaded with sodium, and they're going to increase your blood pressure and lead to poor health. All right. The last thing I'm going to talk about is saturated fat. There's all kind of saturated fat in our diet. If you're eating hamburgers and lots of red meat, you're getting way too much saturated fat. You want to use those red meats sparingly. Things like butter. Butter has lots of saturated fat. It's mostly saturated fat. This is 7 grams, which is 35% of your daily value, in just a tablespoon. So that's not too much butter we're talking about. I also want to caution people not to use margarine. Please get margarine out of your diet. Any of these butter alternatives, they're not really that good. I think the vegetable spread is okay, but aside from that, you want to take these out of your diet. They have lots of trans fats and alternative fats that are not natural. So when you're frying food, if you decide to fry or saute anything, definitely want to switch to EVOO, your extra virgin olive oil. This is great stuff. It has a very good type of fat, very good lipids. You can have small servings of avocado. Avocado has lots of good fat in it. You also can increase your dietary intake of fish. Fish is very good. You want to go for lean meats if you're gonna eat meat. So you want to go for lean parts of the chicken, like the chicken breast, rather than chicken legs. You want to avoid the skin, and this is ways that you can get rid of the saturated fat in our diets. Also, reduce the amount of gravies when you're ordering food and they ask if you want to add gravy. Maybe you might want to forego that, because when the gravy cools, you actually see the droplets of fat on top of it, floating on top of the rest of the gravy. So you know there's a lot of saturated fat in those things. So I hope this was useful to you all. I hope that you're able to change your diets and adjust to this. I gave you some realistic and some powerful ways of changing your diet without changing the flavor. So you can still eat good, eat well, and eat healthily without breaking the bank, and definitely without losing the flavor and having so-called bland or nasty food. Alright, if you have any questions, please do forward them to GaryCarpenterMD@gmail.com, and I would definitely love to hear from you guys. Please leave comments. Thank you so much.